And welcome to Libertarian Counterpoint. I am your host, James Just. With me today is Mr. Alexander Vasquez from Capital City Radio himself. But before we get to start, we want to remind you that today is the big day of giving and here at Access Sacramento, and you can go, there's a little QR code there, or you can just go to accesssacramento.org, find the link. And we want to remind you, if you appreciate what Access Sacramento has brought for the last 30 years, allowing free speech to thrive in your community, this is the time to go and thank them for that. You know, if you appreciate that this show has been on here for over 30 years now,
wow.
Go spend some, go throw us a few bucks. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah, well, and it also gives an opportunity for people to learn the craft of radio, TV, and film. I mean, we got the equipment, we got the instructors, and this is where your dreams can come true. This is little dreamland here.
Yeah, we've got the equipment, instructors, but most importantly, we have the community, which means you. So please spend. If you have the resources, send some our way. All right, Alexander, there's all kinds of shenanigans going on in the world these days. We're going to call it that way.
Especially in Milwaukee.
Yeah,
I mean,
this Milwaukee judge was been charged with obstructing immigration agents, right? She was in charge with obstructing justice. She has been relieved of her duties. She has been relieved of her duties as a judge.
Right.
And she's facing criminal charges. Now, instinctively, I think all of us are a little wary when judges get arrested. But here's how I turn to think about it. What if she was hiding a car thief? What if it was, forget the immigration, what if it was a car thief? Would you have the same reaction?
Probably.
I mean, you and I probably would, but others out there listening who are having an instinctive reaction about her a judge getting arrested, which is legitimate, right? We should all be a little wary of judges getting arrested. We should, a little wary.
Well, a little wary, but she's just like everybody else too, okay? But what she did, I mean, it's one thing to say, not guilty, dismiss trial, whatever the case may be. But to physically take this dude that was being tried and giving him an escape pattern.
Yeah.
That's beyond.
It's not like she gave him advice. Here's a lawyer.
No,
yeah. If you don't have to answer doors,
go to Taco Bell.
There's no advice. She literally escorted him out a side entrance,
right,
to avoid the immigration officers. And I can get it. As a judge, you're upset that immigration officers, show up outside your court. But they're outside your court. You have no control outside of your courtroom.
Well, where's the law and order? I mean, she's supposed to represent law and order. And obviously, this act that she did was, she took it upon herself to be judge, jury, and executioner. And I don't think anybody in this country got the same kind of service that she gave to this dude. For what? And why now? I mean, because this is a political season. Illegal immigration is a big hot issue. And maybe she wants to do a podcast on her own.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, she allowed her personal feelings to interject themselves in her professional duties.
And you can't do that.
You can't do that.
I mean, especially a judge.
Yeah, especially a judge. A defense lawyer, okay, that's what defense lawyers do, right?
Yeah,
you kind of expect it. But a judge is supposed to represent everybody, and that includes people who she disagrees with, and she didn't. And I am leery. I don't like the optics of seeing, federal agents arresting a judge because of something like this. But at the same time, we can't continue to allow people in important positions, in positions of power, to exercise rights that we don't have.
Right, and to help. Now, obviously, she got this guy off, right? I mean, I don't know
the case.
Okay.
I don't know about the case that she was involved in, but what she did is, after her case was over, she escorted him out of the jury entrance, the jury exit, which is off to the side, and took him to the elevators that way.
Well, maybe she likes him. I mean, what can you come up with? I mean, she broke the law.
Yeah, this is an ideological thing. She allowed her ideological desires to kind of overpower her legal mind.
Which means, to me, that's more of an issue.
Yeah.
Than anything else.
Yeah, I can understand where she's coming from, but at the same time, you have a duty to the court.
You can't abuse it.
Yeah, you have a duty to the court. So talking about abusive, abusive duties to the court. Letitia James is in trouble over in New York State, essentially for doing the same thing she complained about President Trump and charged President Trump for. She manipulated loan paperwork so she could get a loan that she otherwise wouldn't have, may or may not have gotten. She probably didn't even need to do it. That's what boggles my mind. She probably didn't need to kind of manipulate the paperwork, but she did.
Yeah. Well, you're dealing with a bank, and the bank is going to give you money to purchase your dream house or, start your wealth. Okay. But they still need to get paid back. And they want people of character. They want people who have good credit and, income coming in and everything like that. And I believe, now this was done several years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so talk about character. She was already stiffing, banks or mortgages, and now she is the Attorney General of New York. Now remember, it is New York. And now she thinks she can do anything she wants. Try to get away with this. And just like the other judge, this power, I know power is like heroin. It'll eat you up, and you think you're everything and then. But this is like, girlfriend, you can't do this while you're an attorney general and expect judges and lawyers to take you seriously now.
It's a blatant hypocrisy.
It is.
She literally just tried she tried Trump based upon him overvaluing a property that the bank didn't feel like a victim, but yet she treated the bank as a victim and
right. And yet she took the bank when she was younger, she took advantage of them by lying on her application and telling them that this man next to me is my husband and it's her dad. It's her husband, and the house was her main residence and not a second house. All various kinds of things that you just, as an individual person, you and I may not care. If it's me or you doing that, we don't give a crap, right? But when someone who is now a prosecutor has to be held to a higher standard than you and me. They just have to. This broad's sick. That's all I can say.
All right, so Mr. Richard Fields is back from his journeys. Let's see what Mr. Richard Fields has to say this week.
Hi, this is Richard Fields with this week's report from the fields. The abundant and comfortable lifestyle to which Americans have become accustomed is a result of the fortuitous combination of an abundance of the four factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, to turn the first three factors into widespread wealth. Land encompasses agricultural output, mineral resources, forests, and fresh water, among other things. We have those in abundance, and they're not disappearing soon. The first 3 months of the Trump administration has put the other three factors of production at risk. Labor is a function of the population and demographic makeup of the country. Trump's anti-immigration policies are reducing the number of people in the labor force. And since immigrants tend to be younger, less immigrants leads demographically to an older workforce. Malaise and pessimism among the people, especially younger people, is keeping birth rates down, leading to demographic getting older. Another word for capital is savings. The savings of individuals and the retained earnings of businesses. The reason given for the Trump tariffs is to rebuild America's industrial base. The very lame theory is that tariffs will force foreign companies to build their factories in America if they want to tap the American consumer market. Factory planning and construction take years and sometimes decades to accomplish. Capital, on the other hand, can move almost instantaneously. We're watching it happen. The stock market went into correction immediately after the announcement of the tariffs on quote-unquote Liberation Day. Normally, when the stock market swoons, the bond market booms. Not this time. U.S. Treasury bonds sold off along with stocks, pushing interest rates higher. Foreign holders of Treasury debt, most notably Japan and China in the lead, sold off Treasuries. Where is the money going? Gold and cash. Foreign central banks are buying gold, and astute investors like Warren Buffett are sitting on record amounts of cash. Capital goes where it's treated best. Under the Trump tariff regime, that is decidedly not the United States. That leaves the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the people that organize the other factors of production. Up until this year, those factors of production were most in abundance in the United States. Silicon Valley, the biotech industry, fracking technology in the oil industry, and many other entrepreneurial activities flourish with the abundance of capital and labor available in the United States. But entrepreneurs without access to capital and labor have nothing to work with. Entrepreneurs can and are expatriating and working from wherever they can get a good Wi-Fi connection. The first time immigration was significantly limited was in the 1920s. The Smoot-Hawley tariffs were implemented in 1930. We all know that the depression that followed in the 1930s did not end for about 25 years, and after a catastrophic world war. Will we, as a country, be wise enough to reverse course on tariffs and immigration policy to avert that result this time around? Will we learn from history or repeat it? The futures of our children and grandchildren hang in the balance. That's this week's report from the fields. I'm Richard Fields. See you again next week.
All right, thank you, Richard. And there's one thing I'm going to disagree with Richard on about a little bit is our stock market has been divorced from the actual functional economy for a couple decades now. They're no longer related like they used to be. But also, when we talk about where capital is only safe here in the United States. There's nowhere else in the world really where it's actually safe. It's not safe in Europe. They'll take it. They'll change the regulations and make your capital worthless overnight. Mm-hmm. Asia, same thing. I mean, there's a couple of small Asian countries where you could probably invest capital without too much risk, but China, you can't invest in China anymore. They simply won't allow it.
Yeah, well, look at Greece about a decade ago. I mean, their money was worthless. Yeah. And they were hosting the Olympics at the time. Yeah. I was there.
And this is the danger for all those people in cash. If inflation if inflation hits, that cash becomes worth less and less and less.
Go to Mexico.
Yeah.
You go there and you give them $100 and they give you like 1 million pesos or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, stacks of money. But you're paying 500,000 pesos for a hamburger. But
at some point you have to rescale that, or it just no longer makes sense. So something of that doesn't make sense, or hasn't made sense in a couple decades, is Harvard's president. Harvard's been in trouble recently for all kinds of things, right? Which, hey, Harvard wanted to fight back. It was Harvard, right? They wanted to fight back against Trump and decided they're no longer going to take federal money. They have enough money in their bank accounts to cover all their tuitions. Well, then why the heck were they taking federal money to begin with?
Because they could.
Yeah, I mean, it really just proves that they didn't need the federal money they were getting in the first place. So that's all that takes. But the report came out the other day that they were engaging in acts of bias, and not just some acts. There were anti-Semitism acts. They were talking about anti-Palestinian. Essentially, they've just kind of been biased against everybody except their own little niche people who agree with them, right? It's just this little group of people that get privileges and everybody else has nothing, essentially.
Right, and you're seeing it in the polls, I believe, that not too many people care about students that go to Harvard, especially when they come out. And they're claiming research, data, and all this other stuff. But basically, Harvard has become a little world of its own, and only certain people can get in. And once they're in for they're in for the long haul, and they contribute to their their school. And that's why they're football team sucks and their basketball team sucks, and they just suck on sports. But they don't care about that. But they'll have it there. But it's just, to them, it's just a commodity to get kids in, and then after that, these kids go on and then they contribute to Harvard. It's a Ponzi scheme in a way.
Yeah. It's they take their alumni and then they suck them dry, right?
Yes, and they do that, but it is a fraternity, not just on campus. I mean, it's a whole fraternity. They understand this, and there's a lot of history about Harvard I've heard about that go back founding fathers.
Yeah, the Ivy League has a reputation that is, shall we say, unearned. We'll call it unearned. We'll call the reputation unearned. And
I don't like them.
But we sit here and we elevate these people who've gone to these so-called elite colleges, but the reality is the education you get at your local college, Sac State or whatever state college, is probably just as good. What you don't get is the networking. That's kind of what Harvard is really selling, or all these kind of colleges are selling. These elite colleges, they're actually selling networking, is what they're selling.
They're selling networking, and they're sending off people that are going to serve them, and that's how this works. Like I said, you're part of a fraternity now that very few people get in, and they take care of their own.
And they take care of it. So we're going to move on. Gavin Newsom the other day patted himself on the back because someone claimed that California now has the 4th highest GDP by a nation. Now, let's be clear. You can't actually make that calculation with a state. It's just not, it's really not possible to kind of figure it out. But the second part of that is the only reason California's GDP is so elevated, shall we call it, is because our costs are so elevated. It's one of those things, because housing costs are so elevated and because every other cost associated with living in California. I mean, we have this 4th highest GDP, but we also have the highest real poverty rate in the country.
And taxes.
And taxes, and the homeless, the highest homeless percentage.
Right.
So all the problems that come with poverty are in California, but yet we're sitting here patting ourselves on the back for being the 4th largest economy.
Well, he is.
In the world, and yeah, it's all phony.
Yeah. Is that a Nazi flag behind him?
I don't know what that thing is.
So anyway, but he cannot sell California. So I think there was a poll that came out about the presidential race so far, and it's just very, very big. But he's like 7% of other candidates. Kamala Harris has beaten him. Buttigieg has beaten him, and somebody else. But he cannot sell California. And it just shows you what politicians will do to just grab anything to make themselves look good in the public.
Well, and he's trying to rewrite his whole ideological history, right? He's trying to pretend he's not what he's just been for the last decade.
No.
Or 2 decades, however long he's been.
Yeah.
Right? He's trying to pretend now that he's a centrist. And he's never been a centrist.
No. And when he was mayor of San Francisco, he wasn't even sober. I mean, he had his plum jack restaurants and everything like that. He was a playboy. And the only reason why he got where he's at is 2 people, the Burton brothers, Phil and John. They're the ones who brought him up, taught him this was going to be our guy. And they've always had this thing about, we need somebody from California to be president of the United States, not 2 Republicans, but a Democrat, and not somebody from LA. It's got to be from the Bay Area. That's the story.
Yeah, and well, he looks and sounds good, right? Superficially, he looks and sounds good. So he's got the slick appearance. He speaks well.
Yeah, him and his wife, I call it the Ken and Barbie show.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a very good analogy.
Yeah, I mean, L.A., Los Angeles.
But they're all phony. It's all phony, and it's all backhanded compliments.
I mean, this is the same kind of guy would wear an L.A. Dodger hat just to get L.A. vote.
Yeah, it is. All right, sticking in California, California colleges have detected more fraudsters stealing more money. Now, we all know California is like the home of the fraudsters, right? For whatever reason, fraudsters can get money from California while actual California citizens who need services can't get it. Who knows? We've talked about bureaucracy in next week's show, but California is the worst in terms of this type of how allowing fraud. And this is just $10 million in federal. We allow them to steal federal money. You're so terrible about this. The problem with this is that's going to give the current administration the ability to come in here and run roughshod through California systems because
they gave it to them.
They gave it to them.
Yeah. And so is Doge really that bad after all? I mean, this is like exhibit A of what we're going through right now. And people are, like I said, Trump has done something where he has shown that government, whether it's California or anything like that, the dirty laundry is coming out.
Yeah, they can't, the most basic things where you try to limit fraudsters and support the people, but it's opposite. Fraudsters have an easy time,
right,
and people who actually need services, people who actually deserve, don't get it.
Right.
It's astounding how dysfunctional California really is.
It is, but all we're going to hear from here on in is that we're the 4th largest economy in the world, and vote for me, and we're going to have a new governor soon, okay? And look at the list on that one. I mean, California is. Remember, we used to call it fake gold. Remember, there was a term, fake gold. That's what we've become in this state, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're all superficial. All right, EU.
Yes.
The EU has a digital silencing act, right? Well, it's actually not what they call it, but it undermines not just free speech in Europe. They're actually trying to limit free speech here in the United States because they're saying like places like X has a presence in Europe that they can now tell X to censor American speech.
Right.
That's the theory. And it's not just EU. The UK has been trying to do the same thing. This is nothing new, but that Europe is trying to use their
influence.
I don't even know if kind of their moral high-mindedness, we'll call it, right? Whatever you want to call it.
England.
Yeah, not just England, the EU.
Yeah.
They don't like America's freedom to speak.
Right.
Because it's a danger to their worldview. Because it's a danger to the elite's power.
Right. And on top of that, they've been trying to keep, like Harvard, okay, and an elite group of Europeans that they can control, they can manipulate, and once you're in, you can't get out. What country was the one that got out?
UK. England. Yeah, England got out.
All right. And why did they do it? Because they didn't want to be represented by them anymore.
Well, it's because they got out because the EU is not a democratic institution.
Right.
You essentially have the bureaucracy runs the EU.
Right.
All that happens is the people who get elected can say yes or no. They don't get to put laws in. They just get to say yes or no to what the bureaucracy proposes. And so there's no real democracy in the EU. And that's why the UK left, which is hilarious because the UK itself is exactly the same way.
Yeah, they just do it better. They don't want to be told what to do.
They don't want to be told what to do by people in Brussels. Is
right.
What it is. They're perfectly happy being told what to do by people in London. They just don't want to be told what to do by people in Brussels.
Well, this digital silencing. What gets me about it is that it's our internet, our social media, all these new platforms that are coming up. You can't control. It's getting to the point where you can't control it now.
No, we have VPNs. So even if they don't have a presence in EU, European citizens can still come and
right.
view the content. So they're trying to put Pandora back in the box, and it's just not possible.
Well, leave it to the EU to do this, and leave it to the EU to get paranoid and scared. And now they're acting worse than before. It's
J.D. Vance ended up being right.
Yes.
He sit there and told them this is a problem, and they said, no, it's not, we're going to go do it. It makes no sense. So here's something else, Alexander, we've got a couple minutes left, that makes no sense. Well, it makes some sense, but how did it get here? The Sacramento Zoo announced yesterday that
poor animals.
The new proposed zoo in Elk Grove is not going to move. There was this big movement to have move the zoo to Elk Grove, to a big complex in Elk Grove, and it went from a 65-acre complex, but in order to make costs work, they had to keep downgrading it and downgrading it and downgrading it, and at some point it's no longer worth the move, right? Because you're no longer going to have a functional service, right?
Yeah. I think part of that has to do also, they're saying cost of material and labor and all this other stuff to build this thing is going to be astronomical and all that. But I think what it has to do also with is that the Indian casinos are growing and they need more land. So, goodbye giraffe, hello us, And Elk Grove is that type of city that really wants to grow. And they have plenty of land. And I always thought that the concept of having the zoo there would be like San Diego, something big, a big attraction. But is this part of the Central Valley? Is it ready for it to have that kind of entertainment and that kind of venue?
Well, I think that's part of the problem. In order to have that work, it's got to be big and it's got to be high class. It's got to be enough to drag people from the Bay Area here,
right? Or
people to come in and from LA or San Diego. It's got to have a draw, and I don't know if we have enough resources to actually build something like that.
So are the animals at the Sacramento Zoo, are they going to be homeless now, or what?
I don't know. The plan is to renovate that, I guess, is the new plan.
It's only 14 acres.
Yeah, it's not big enough to, and it's too expensive.
Yeah,
it's not big enough and too expensive. So
I mean, there's shelters in Sacramento that are bigger than that place. And so once again, Sacramento has screwed itself. They're very good at it. And you can't really blame Elk Grove, because we really haven't heard the story of
what happened exactly.
Yeah,
what happened.
exactly.
It just all of a sudden it kind of fell apart.
And I'm going, nothing fell apart that fast, especially when you've been planning this for a while.
Yeah, this has been ongoing for quite a while.
Yeah, and like I said, hopefully they won't evict the animals at the Sacramento Zoo and they become homeless.
We got 1 minute left, so before we go, we want to remind you that today is Big Day of Giving. You can go to Access Sacramento. You can find the link to donate. You can donate today. You've got a QR code there on your screen that goes to my page. For those of you who are our viewers, that little QR code goes to my page. You can donate to the little competition we have. Friendly competition amongst us employees over here who can kind of raise the most money. I had $0, so some of you guys go off and give me. Even my own mother didn't actually put any money. She donated money. She just didn't donate it to my own page.
Well, as long as you're still in the will, she's okay.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here, Alexander.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
the crew in there for being so hard. Thank you for. I already thanked them for watching. Thank Access Sacramento for allowing us to have free speech on the air for the last 30 years. Over 30 years. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you for watching. Have a good night, and please remember to love everybody.